I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great. So, up first is the approval of our meeting agenda and minutes. Looking for a motion to approve our meeting agenda for tonight, as well as the minutes from our Committee of the Whole meeting, May 23rd, 2022, and our school board meeting minutes from May 23rd, 2022. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Fantastic. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion carries. Great. Like that was a little thing, and now we get a big thing. Our quality in action is high school assistant principal Angie Ryder presenting the spring theater performances, the Laramie Project, Hear My Heart, and CSI Wonderland.
Thank you for having us this evening. I'm here on behalf of Mr. Holson in the theater department, and I'd like to thank the SSP School Board for giving us some time to recognize our spring theater participants for their hard-earned successes this season. As always, we do in the spring, we had two theatrical productions, the high school play, The Laramie Project, and the middle school play, CSI Wonderland. Both productions were incredibly successful, and we're super proud of all the hard work and talent our student actors and technicians put into these shows. The Laramie Project, in particular, earned accolades from the Hennepin Theater Trust Spotlight Program. Our actors, run crew, ensemble, and light and sound crew all received honorable mentions as a group. We also received the Spotlight Program's top recognition of outstanding for our costume crew and our sound and light crew. In addition, the Laramie Project was also awarded the Community Engagement Award for our work with both Outfront Minnesota and South St. Paul alumnus Mel Fellows in providing information and support to audience members in the lobby. We also were quite happy to host the 11th and 12th graders for a performance of the show during the school day. We also had several students who received individual achievements. Many of those students are actually performing this evening at the Spotlight Showcase, and we have some of our fantastic award winners with us here today. Performing this evening is Rissa Contreras, who received an honorable mention in a leading role for their performance as Aaron Kreifels and Andrew Gomez. Rissa was also our soundboard operator for CSI Wonderland. Casey Creer received an honorable mention in a leading role for his performance as Greg Pirati and Sergeant Hing. Bella Maurer is with us this evening. She received an honorable mention in technical leadership for her role as lightboard operator. She was also a lighting designer and the props master for the Laramie Project and was the stage manager for CSI Wonderland. You're a busy kid. Jackie Munson received an outstanding in technical leadership for her role as stage manager for the Laramie Project. Abby, you want to move up front? Abby Powers received an outstanding in technical leadership for her role as co-head costumer for the Laramie Project. She also played the roles of Minister's Wife, Lucy Thompson, and Allison Mears in the Laramie Project. That's a lot. Lily Rosengren received an outstanding in technical leadership for her role as co-head costumer for the Laramie Project. She also played the roles of Matt Galloway and Murdoch Cooper in the Laramie Project and was the video board operator for CSI Wonderland. Wyatt Roth received an honorable mention in a leading role for his performance as Jedediah Schultz and Harry Woods in the Laramie Project. Thank you, Wyatt. You were awesome. Molly Schmidt received an evaluator shout-out for her performances as Romaine Patterson and Cal Raruka in the Laramie Project. Cadence Sunley received an evaluator shout-out for her performances as Tiffany Edwards, TV newsperson, and Kristen Price in the Laramie Project. Maggie Toohey is with us. She received an outstanding in technical leadership for her role as projectionist in the Laramie Project. She also played the role of Cheshire Cat in CSI Wonderland. Annie Voss received an outstanding performance in a leading role for her performances as Reggie Flutie, Dennis Shepard in the Laramie Project. She was also an assistant stage manager for CSI Wonderland. Ruby Wilms received an evaluator shout-out for her performances as Rulon Stacy, Dr. Cantaway, and Barbara Pitts in the Laramie Project. She was also the assistant director for CSI Wonderland and filled in for a couple of actors who were unfortunately sidelined with some due to illness, that virus. I don't know who had an opportunity to see the Laramie Project, but I went and saw it and I bawled.
Yeah.
Like I'm well enough just thinking about it. You guys were fantastic. We'd like to thank the South St. Paul School Board, the administration, staff, and parents for all their support of our Packer thespians over the years. We hope to see everyone at our summer performances as well. The South St. Paul junior players will be performing the Extraordinary League of Horrible Monsters, write this date down, at 7 p.m. on July 14th and 15th. The South St. Paul Community Theater will be performing Matilda the Musical at 7 p.m. on July 28th, 29th, and 30th, and a matinee at 2 p.m. on July 31st. We hope very much to see you all there. And I just want to give you guys a round of applause because you were fantastic. Okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you for coming.
Absolutely. They're going to sit down, but board members, any questions, comments?
I just want to give a shout out. Both of those performances were really incredible and made for a phenomenal spring theater season. And I mean, my family took a great deal of joy in watching all of those.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just want to thank everyone for so many of the students are taking on more than one part or activity. That is so great. Great experience, great learning opportunities. So thank you so much. It's great.
Absolutely. Nice job, guys.
Yeah, great. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
And thanks, Angie.
I can't be in Matilda this
Yeah.
summer. Too much going on.
Angie, I cried all the way through Laramie Project too.
I bawled. It
Yeah.
was very personal.
Yeah,
I just
absolutely, me too.
bawled. So
So moving, so moving.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna leave before I cry.
I went
Yeah.
to every performance, and my goal was to make it through one without it.
Yeah,
No,
it was,
no?
Nope.
Yeah,
Didn't.
it was incredible. I'm so glad that they got to do it.
me
Yeah.
too.
It was really important for our community.
Thanks for all what you guys do.
Thank you.
Thanks, Angie. Take
Thanks,
care.
Have a
Angie.
great summer.
Thanks.
Yeah, it was an amazing performance, wasn't it?
Yeah, I have a friend who's a school counselor in Bloomington and middle school counselor, and when she found out about it, she said, "Who do I call? Who do I call to talk to get information about what you did? Because that is so amazing, and our kids would love to do it."
Yeah.
So,
Well, and the playwrights who hold the rights to that play are pretty selective about who they allow to perform it. So it also says a lot that we were able to
yeah,
bring
that's
that
good
to our
information.
community. So.
Good information. So, yeah. All right. The public listening session submissions, there were none for this week. Just a reminder that if you would like to come and talk to us, we are available the first school board meeting of the month at 4:15 right here at the airport. Our numbers are on the website, so feel free to contact any one of us. And then we have Finance Director Brady Hoffman, who's going to highlight our 2023 proposed budget. Hi.
Good evening. Wait till we're up and running here. So good evening. Tonight we're going to go through the FY23 budget, an initial presentation that the board will look to approve here at the end of the month at the next board meeting. We're going to touch base on the main funds within the school district. They're kind of like different checkbooks that we operate within. So we have our general fund, which is our main operating fund of the district. We have our food service fund, which accounts for all the meals and the milks and snacks that our students receive throughout the school year. We have our community service fund, which touches on early childhood family education, preschool, adult basic education, and other community activities in that area. And then our debt service fund, which accounts for all of our debt payments for outstanding bonds that the district has issued. So when we look at our budget process, it starts on early on. In January, this past January, the school board reviewed some initial projections, worked through a guiding change document. So that's a document that the school board would kind of give some parameters and expectations of what they would like to see through the budget process and give the district leadership some targets to work towards. February, the administrative team works to develop some of those budget recommendations. In March and April, the school board reviews updates of the budget process and also approves the adjustments that were made for the 22-23 budget cycle. And then in April, May, we continue to work through the many different details and funding mechanisms and piecing together those budget details, which brings us to June, where we're giving our presentation on the proposed FY23 budget for the board to consider for approval here at the end of the month. Looking at some of our current realities here with the general fund. So South St. Paul has a voter-approved operating referendum of $664 per pupil unit. There are statutory caps, so the most that a school district can approve, and that cap is currently at $1,881 per pupil unit. So just to provide context, when you look at the AMSD, the Association of Metro School Districts, and what their average voter-approved referendum is, that average is 1,247. So we are a little over halfway there, but not quite stacking up with where the Metro is. Local optional revenue is another tax revenue that now all districts have access to. So over the last several years, legislative sessions, the legislature has made changes to give more districts access to levy dollars without going to the voters. So that's $724 that the school board has, or the school district has access to without voter approval. We do have a technology levy, so a capital levy that our voters have approved. That is in place, so that's 3.75% of our net tax capacity. So that's approximately $227 per pupil unit, so that's an ongoing levy that we have access to help maintain the technology within our district. A couple other pieces of challenges that the district faces, so the special ed cross subsidy. So the cross subsidy is, we're mandated to provide special education services to our students. However, it's not fully funded. So the gap in what we receive in funding versus what we are required to provide is the cross subsidy. So we are currently, for FY21, having a cross subsidy of $3.7 million. So that's $3.7 million that we are incurring in costs that isn't getting reimbursed by special ed funding. MDE's projection for FY22 is that number is going to grow to $4.3 million. So those are the pieces that we have to continue to navigate. Our EL cross subsidy, so that's another one of those programs where we provide the services and the revenue isn't there to back it up, is about $761,000. So looking at our general fund and some of the overarching budget assumptions that are built within our projection. So for our basic formula allowance, that's the main funding mechanism from the state. This current past legislative session for this biennium, we do know we have a 2% increase in that funding for next year. So that brings the per pupil amount to $6,863. In our projection, we are assuming the 2% to continue on, as that's been a pretty consistent benchmark from the state the last few sessions. COVID relief funding, so through this COVID-19 pandemic, there's been additional federal funds that have been allocated to districts, and we are utilizing that over the next 2 years to continue to offset reductions that we would have had to have otherwise been making now. Earlier this school year, we sold our Jefferson property to the city for $1 million, and we are using those resources as well to buy us time and offset future reductions, or offset reductions that we would otherwise had to have made. Within the expenditures, we are budgeting an overall increase of about 2.5%. So within all of our contracts, there's steps and increases built into increased salaries and benefits. We are adjusting non-salary items for market adjustments, things like transportation, supplies, materials. As those assumptions come into play, we roll all that together, and it's about a 2.5% increase in our expenses. Enrollment is the biggest driver of our revenues. Most of our revenues are a per pupil calculation, and we are projecting a decline in enrollment over the next 5 years. Back in 2016-17 was our peak, 3,525 students. And we've slowly seen a decline leading up to the current year, which is the checkered bar, which is 3,032 students. We're projecting to drop about 100 students to next year to bring us to 2,932. And as you can see, we are continuing to have a steady decline as well. A big reason for this decline is our secondary class sizes are a lot larger than our elementary class sizes. So we're graduating more kids annually than we're having enter the system into kindergarten. So it's becoming a natural decline that we're facing here for the next several years. So when we take those assumptions and that enrollment projection and roll it together, this is a summary showing kind of the next 3 years of what we're projecting for our budget cycles. So the first column with the green heading there is the FY23 projected budget. So we're projecting, prior to any adjustments, was 41.7 million in revenue, 43.1 million in expense, which would require about a $1.4 million expenditure adjustment reduction to get us back to balance to maintain an 11% unassigned fund balance, so that bottom row. So through our guiding change document with the school board, 11% was the target to maintain to ensure that we have the flexibility to adjust to changes in enrollment and changes in programming and still be able to maintain a decent, adequate fund balance to adjust for those. As we project out to FY24 and FY25, you can see we are leveraging some federal dollars, which is what's leading us to FY25. So all of the COVID relief funds we're receiving expire at the end of FY24. So the 1.4 million this year is state's inflation gap, declining enrollment, same for 24, but then when we get to FY25, we're also losing that $2 million of the federal funds that we've been leveraging as well. The inflation gap is where our revenue doesn't keep pace with the growth of our expenses. So the market, salaries, benefits, transportation, those things are going up at a faster rate than the new funding we receive from the state. So there's an inflation gap component there. So those pieces all play together into this projection. So the adjustments that were made during this budget cycle, a large portion of that is the aligning of staff to enrollment. So as we have declining enrollment, we have fewer classes because the class ranges, the class norms are being held the same, so the number of kids per student, but with less kids, we just have less classes. The ESSER funding line item there is being leveraged to maintain those class sizes where they are. So absent this ESSER funding, we would have been raising our class size norms and having more kids in each class. So the whole idea with using this federal funding is to keep as many adults in our buildings as we can to help support all of our students. We had our Director of Equity and Early Learning retire. So also through this budget cycle, we also redesigned that position, which resulted in about a $42,000 savings to the general fund. We have an OPEB trust, other post-employment benefits. So we do have dollars in a investment trust set aside strictly for post-employment benefits. So when an employee retires and they receive post-employment benefits, health benefits mainly, we have a trust to pay those costs. So it's not coming out of the general fund. So we are leveraging an additional $100,000 out of that trust to pay costs that otherwise the general fund would have to absorb. And then in savings from employee retirements. So typically there's attrition. So as employees retire and leave the system, they're usually your higher paid employees and they're usually replaced with employees that are lower on the pay scale. So there's a natural savings and attrition that happens with employee turnover. So those pieces combined get us to that $1.4 million target savings through the budget process. So here is the proposed budget for the general fund. This is a recap that shows the fund balance categories and the impact that happens on those. So we have unassigned fund balances, which is completely unrestricted. There's restricted fund balances that are tied to a specific purpose based on state statute or other external factors that would say this can only be used for a certain purpose. So we have things such as staff development dollars, we have maintenance dollars, capital dollars. We get funding that can only be used for specific purposes, so those are broken out separately. So the first column there shows where we're projecting to start the year with the fund balance of just under $6 million in total, or 11%. The next columns show our revenue and expenses, so we're budgeting $45.7 million of revenue and $45.6 million of expense. So a slight surplus is currently being proposed, which is allowing us to maintain that 11% fund balance target. So this current proposed budget would bring us to an 11.29% unrestricted fund balance. When we take our general fund revenues and we break that apart to where the money comes from, the largest piece of the pie, that red half, the 48%, is our general state aid. So when we talk about the state gave us a 2% increase, that's on that 48% of the pie. The next largest slice is 25%, that's our categorical state aids. So those are things such as special education, compensatory, ATTPS or QComp. So the dollars that can come with some restrictions are very specific funding formulas attached to them. We have our tax levies, which represent about 17%, and then our federal, which is 8%, and that is a larger portion than normal because of that additional federal funding we're receiving. A typical year would probably be closer to 5%, not 8%. When we look at where our money is going, 81% of our expenses go towards people. The salaries and benefits, we are a people-heavy organization, so 81% goes towards all the people within our systems, within our schools that are supporting our students. The next largest portion is purchase services at 15%, so that's things such as transportation, repairs and maintenance, and other purchase services to support our schools, which leaves supplies, materials, and capital as a very small portion of the overall general fund budget. Shifting gears to the food service fund. So this is, as I mentioned earlier, accounts for all the preparation and service of meals and snacks. So for the current school year we're in, all of our students are eating free this year. And that was all made possible by the Seamless Summer Options Program through the U.S. Department of Agriculture. That program ends at the end of this year and isn't continuing beyond. So starting next year, we will go back to the National School Lunch Program that we were on before, which is where students can qualify for free or reduced meals based on their applications for educational benefits. So this is, those applications also is what drives our compensatory funding, so the district will continue to make that push to encourage families to continue to complete those forms, because not only do they benefit with meals and other services, but it also helps generate additional revenue for the district. The other two funds, which is the community service fund, so that's ECFE, school readiness, preschool, adult basic education. So community service is funded with state aid and levy dollars, as well as users, tuition and user fees who participate in those programs. And then our debt service fund accounts for all the outstanding, or the debt payments on our outstanding bonds. We are required to levy 105% of what those debt payments are. In the event that taxpayers are delinquent on their taxes, this ensures that we have the revenue to make those debt payments. As that fund balance can grow over time because our taxpayers do pay their tax bill, there is a mechanism built in that fund balance won't grow too large. The dollars will actually be given back to the taxpayers through the tax levy. And there is some of those adjustments taking place this year. So when we look at the summary of these other funds, the food service fund, that first section is projected to have 1.8 million of revenue and 1.8 million of expense to be fairly break even and maintain a healthy fund balance of $620,000. For community ed, we do project a surplus of about $200,000, and a big portion of this is related to the levy cycle. So in the pre-COVID levies, we had levied for the levy system works where you levy in advance and anticipate what you're going to spend. We anticipated to spend X amount on one of our levies, but because of COVID, the programming didn't happen. So therefore, we didn't incur those costs. So we're going to have a negative adjustment in the future. So we are growing that fund balance because we know for FY 24-25, we're not going to get that revenue. So it's going to be going back to the taxpayers. So it's an intentional surplus there. And then our debt service fund, once again, is a slight surplus, but not that full 5% because we do have a fund balance that's accumulated there. So that's just over around $3 million a year is roughly what we have in an annual debt service expense within South St. Paul. So this is the recap of all of the funds being presented for FY23. The school board is required to approve this by the end of June for the next fiscal year. So we were presenting it tonight, and we will come back here at the end of the month and look for a full approval from the school board. So that is my report. I will open it up to any questions that you may have.
I appreciate the thorough information. I know there was a lot of celebrating around the 2.5% increase for kind of state funding though, but I think at the rate of inflation, like that's not even keeping up with what some of the costs to our district are right now. So that's frustrating.
Do you know if there's any chance that before the end of the federal fiscal year that they would reapprove any of the food aid?
I haven't heard any updates on that, no.
Any other questions, comments?
We've been through this many times, so we're familiar with it, but I'm glad that it's being presented again to the community. I would tell the community, read through the whole thing. It's very well presented, but really focus on current realities and the overall budget assumptions, because that's what's setting us up for the years to come. And it's important information for everyone to know.
Great.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Brady.
Thanks, Brady.
Thank you.
Detailed work.
For sure. And Vice Chair Rosh, will you go over our highlights from the Committee of the Whole meeting?
Sure. So just prior to our meeting, we had our committee of the whole meeting where much of the board work happens. As kind of the business of board work. Which a lot of discussions were around kind of facilities and maintenance. And then we also reviewed the budget reports that we just got. But we had a kind of an interesting conversation about some calendar adjustments at the elementary school level to try and find some space for some teachers as well. And still have that impact students in a positive way. And that was a really good, vigorous conversation about providing a little bit of flexibility at the elementary level, much as we have done at the secondary level for the Win Wednesdays, and trying to build a little bit of relief in the calendar for that. So more news probably to come on that.
Yeah,
So.
great. Thank you. And then Dr. Zambrino, you have highlights from your 90-day plan.
Yeah, hard to believe we're getting close to 90 days here. You know, typically, for those who aren't aware, often when a superintendent is hired, they put together an entry plan, kind of the first 90 days, 100 days, somewhere in there. Although usually that starts in the summer and you're doing that. I had obviously the great opportunity to jump in early and had to rethink what I would put together for that entry plan. But a lot of the same pieces of getting to know the community and learn what's working, but the advantage of getting to see things firsthand myself. So wanted to share out what some of the key findings were of that and the highlights as I've gotten to know the district, and hopefully you all been able to get to know me as I've been getting out and about. So I did put it together in a couple of phases. So phase one was described as listen and learn. Again, get out, take in as much information. For a while, it felt like maybe drinking from a fire hose. I do have to commend my amazing administrative assistant here, Lisa Brandecker. Most people know her and the quality of her work, but she was able to get me to just about any place you could possibly want to get to learn about the district and set out to hear what's working, what are maybe things that people are concerned about or things that are on their minds. So in terms of stakeholder engagement, started with an opportunity to meet with each of our board members individually. Also because we didn't have that typical launch the school year, I went and met with each one of the building staff. So the principals scheduled a time when all the staff could come together and had a chance to introduce myself. And then in terms of the staff in the buildings, again, being as present as possible throughout these first 3 months. Students had wow, and I think everybody knows this, our students are just absolutely amazing, but got a chance to meet with a lot of our student leadership groups, so student councils. At the high school, we have some affinity groups, Saga, the Black Pride Organization, Women's Society, so meeting with them. Families, attended a number of our PTA or family advisory groups. Met with union leadership, of course they play an important role, and then a lot of the community and community partners, so partners at the city, Mayor Francis, Joel Hansen, who's city manager, as well as our local Lions Club and Rotary. So just been out and about, meeting everybody I can and learning about our amazing town and district. So some of the strengths that jumped out throughout these meetings, first and foremost is that sense of Packer pride. I mean, I know that's a term everyone hears. I can assure you I'm not interviewing anymore. I have the job, so I don't have to sell you all on this, but I knew it was a proud town, and I've worked in other places that are proud, but I will say it's really second to none. Everywhere you go, someone wants to tell you, I worked with her mom, and I graduated from here, my kids graduated from here, and that sense of Packer pride is just, it transcends everything. Throughout the entire community. And then that segues right into that strong support that our schools receive. So the entire community, the Educational Foundation, we've talked about it here before, over $450,000 in scholarships going to the kids. The Lions, the Rotary, those groups I talked about, just how can we help, being involved and supporting events and, anything that we may need. Another piece that came up was around student involvement as an advantage to our size, how easy it is for students to be involved in a variety of extracurriculars, not just athletics, but tonight we had a presentation about our theater program. We heard the overlap of students, and the way they participate in multiple productions and things like that. And so sometimes our size works against us, but in this case for our kids, it creates a lot of opportunity to be plugged in, to be engaged, where if they were in a really large high school, they might get kind of lost or not have those same opportunities, for example. There we go. Skip twice. Okay, the next strength slide, tri-district partnership. Again, talking about being small, that creates some need sometimes for partnerships. The tri-district between Inver Grove Heights, West St. Paul, and ourselves creates some great opportunities. So the CAPS program, the college and career readiness, our community education, adult basic ed. So being able to partner well with those neighbors allows us to create some opportunities for the children and adults in our communities. The focus on individual student needs, so there's a strong commitment to MTSS, or multi-tiered systems of support. Looking at each individual student and what they need, we have the BAR program, which is building assets, reducing risks. Again, teams of teachers coming together to look at individual students and what they may need to be successful. And then WIN, Principal Bretoy was here during the Committee of the Whole. He talked about that What I Need time that they do at the elementary, looking at the kids, and of course they have the What I Need Wednesday at the secondary. So that strong commitment to looking at our students as the individuals they are and what they need. And these last two probably could have been the first two. I mean, just the amazing, high quality, committed staff we have. I talked about the opportunities for kids to be involved. Well, our staff need to backfill that or maybe front load that so that they can. So just a commitment the staff have to their schools, to their community, to the kids. And then our students, I mean, they're just amazing at all levels. The curiosity they show, the ingenuity, and I appreciated when I met with the affinity groups, the level of candor the kids had and sharing their personal experiences with the school. Some very personal topics and conversations came up, and for me, I would say basically a stranger. Sure, by title they assume I'm probably a safe adult, but just amazing what our kids are doing and who they are. I did ask, about opportunities for improvement or areas maybe of concern. I'm going to call it areas of focus because we're a learning organization and we're going to continuously grow and improve. The first one, I think, primarily has to do with the impact of the pandemic. So some of the pieces around culture and climate. And this is not unique to our district. I know that doesn't win anybody over when you're feeling like things aren't where we want them to be, and we say, well, it's like that other places. But the reality is the pandemic has had a tremendous impact on young people, the amount of trauma they've been through. And I often talk about, there was a period of time where I think kids went without the guardrails. So being in our buildings with adults to say, nope, that's the line over here. No, that's the line over there. And a lot of our kids didn't have that just because they weren't here, not because of anything deficient at home, but just they weren't in school. And so I think we're seeing an impact of that. Again, I think exacerbated by the amount of trauma the community's been through with the pandemic and social and civil unrest. And so we're seeing that play out. I think another area that comes up would be around academics. I'm thinking here maybe around programs or systems, but academic achievement is a point of focus for us moving forward. It'll be a high priority of mine. I'll get to that in a moment. Also, people mentioned a bit about the pathways, wondering if we have students who feeling, that if I have a student who isn't specifically going to university, do we have enough in place to prepare them for career? Was a common theme. Brady Hoffman did mention it just a moment ago around enrollment. I know that's something the board is passionate about understanding. Again, I'll speak more to that in a moment, but that's come up around our enrollment. And then our use of facilities, is that aligned to getting us those outcomes we want around our academics? So the second phase moves into analyzing what was learned and then doing some planning. So we are working forward to work on some strategic planning. So the board has a long working relationship with Dennis Cheesebrow. He's come in and had some initial conversation. He's actually going to come tomorrow again to meet with Cabinet to talk about putting together a timeline for some strategic planning. Within that, their outfit, Teamworks International, can do a really holistic look at our enrollment. So they have a very robust data system that pulls in census data and other data points, and then can help us project out. So I think we had some good projection data today that Brady shared, but it'll be much more granular, and then allows us comes with a tool where we can tweak, like if we are at, I'm making it up, 80% market share, meaning 80% of our residents attend our district. What would that look like if we were at 82, 84? So as we think about goal setting or things with our strategic plans. And then we'd also work on that desired daily experience. What is it that we want all students to have access to and experience as students within South St. Paul? MTSS will be another focus area. So looking at our academic program. So one of the things I often have heard or will say, the system is getting the outputs it's designed to get. So, you know, the MCA results are not everything, but we've seen over the recent years, it isn't where I would say, where I would like us to be. But I would say, if I know, and I believe this fully, we have amazing staff and we have amazing students, then I would think the outcome of our system would be amazing as well. And so that tells me something within the system is maybe not creating the outcomes we want. So we need to look at our systems. Around social emotional learning, I talked about some of the culture and climate pieces. Looking towards how do we support moving towards restorative mindset. So we know students are going to make mistakes. We know they need to be held accountable, but what does that system look like? Where we teach, like, here's the harm you caused, and how do you repair that harm? So building towards restorative mindsets in that work. And as we think about MTSS and that focus on each individual learner, that has to involve equity work. And we can't be concerned about each and every individual without having an equity mindset and approach towards that work. Funding had come up tonight. Obviously, there's some significant concerns about a fiscal cliff approaching our system here once the ESSER dollars run out, and knowing that we're seeing increasing inflation and state funding not keeping up. So we do have a community survey underway to see where the community may feel about supporting the district in terms of operating dollars. So we'll work through that. And then Mark Fenton was here earlier, head of buildings and grounds. He mentioned a facility study that had been started to look at, I would say, like the health of our buildings in terms of maintenance, structures, those pieces. We'll continue with that, but then also looking at how we use our facilities to make sure we're maximizing our facilities in a way that's efficient and effective to help us improve our outcomes. So, you know, if I were to summarize, again, amazing students, amazing staff, what a great place to be, the Packer pride within the community. I feel like I've won the lottery to get to be superintendent here. I had the opportunity to do the commencement ceremony last week, and as Principal Ochaki and I were walking out of the gym with the kids, and I was talking about, you know, my first time doing that, he said, "You kind of won the lottery on this deal, didn't you, to get to be superintendent?" I said, "I did." Absolutely. And so looking forward to partnering through that strategic planning process in the days, weeks, months, years ahead to just propel us forward to a very bright future. I've said it before, we're going to be small, but we're going to be mighty. So
Yay.
certainly open to any questions.
There was something that struck me, I think it was during the MTSS, which is multi-tiered
Systems of support.
systems of
Yep.
support, where you had said, we've got great kids, great staff, and if we're not seeing that in the academics, then there's something wrong with the system. And I really appreciate that, because then we're committed to looking at those systems all the time. And we should, right? Well, like you had
Yeah.
said, we're a community of learning. We should always study, is this working?
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that you're you're thinking about that and it's an
Thank
area
you.
of focus.
And it's not to look to find blame,
No.
because again, like, it's not the kids' fault. You know, the adults are doing their best work. So what is it that we need to provide to support our kids better, to support our teachers? We heard the principals here earlier today talking about, you know, professional collaboration time for our elementary teachers to do their best work. We know that the Win Wednesday's starting to have an impact. So I think we're already going to see great things coming, but just to continue to stay in that space of curiosity and learning, and also risk taking, to feel like it's okay to change and try something new. And we will always do that with the intention for better outcomes. If it doesn't work out, you can always go back to what you did before, but I want to make sure we create that safe space for staff, you know, and students to try new things and, you know, aspire to greatness.
And I think because the community changes, the kids change, right? So with that, then we also have to change. And like you said, it may, I know in my day job, we talk about the pendulum swinging, and sometimes the pendulum swings back.
Yeah.
Because that's just how the world is dictating us to change. But I think when you stay curious and you ask questions, is this working now? Then you're always catching up to that pendulum swinging and not getting hit by it.
I think,
Picture in my brain.
I think you've got a great assessment of where we're at, and it has been a ton of fun welcoming you on board, and also like getting to see you at all of these kind of end of the year events that you're seeing, kind of what has been built into our schools along the way. It's been a real treat, and I'm really excited about the future we have together going forward.
Oh, thank you. It's an amazing place. I feel so happy to be here.
Yes, it's an honor for us to have you, Brian,
Oh, thank you.
truly.
Thank you.
And I'm glad that we had the opportunity to take kind of a head start into
Yeah.
next year and
Yeah.
learn what you have learned and have that behind you as you start next year, so.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here, but then to share what I've learned in this bit of time. It's, like I said, just a great place.
Glad to hear that.
Yes.
And Dr. Zambrino, you're going to put that summary report on the website?
Yes,
right?
we'll post that. My entry plan is still there. It's kind of fallen a little further down on the list, so what we can do is, you know, link them together and move them back up to the
Great.
top, so it's easy to find on the website.
Thank you. All right, moving on to the consent items, and just a reminder, consent items are items that come through each meeting that don't need much discussion, including bills payable, claims, and our staffing report. So do I have a motion for the approval of our consent items tonight?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? And all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Moving on to the policy section of our agenda. If you remember, we have policies that are under review, and then they are on our agenda, our school board agendas for review and comment by board members, staff, and community members for 2 consecutive school board meeting agendas, and tonight is our second. So that means at our 3rd meeting, June 27th, the policies will come before the board for approval at that time. So they are on the website to be looked at if you'd like. Great. And moving on to the business items. We have 2 business items up, and I am looking for approval to approve the resolution authorizing intermediate districts 917's long-term facility maintenance program budget and authorizing the inclusion of a proportionate share of those projects in the district's application for long-term facility maintenance revenue.
Well
Do I have a
done.
motion?
So moved.
Second.
Great. And do comments first, right? So Finance Director Brady Hoffman here.
Yep, I'll provide a little bit of background. So the long-term facility maintenance program is something that all districts have access to, but as an intermediate district, they don't have their own taxpayers necessarily to be able to go through this process on their own. So the member districts all have to participate in this with them. So this is the way in which intermediate district 917 gets access to those dollars. So the total that they're proposing for their long-term facility maintenance budget is $188,000. The share that South St. Paul would be responsible for is $8,359. Just to show kind of how that $8,000 falls within our total taxes. Our total tax levy for South St. Paul is 11.2 million. So this is a very small portion of our levy. And so the taxpayers it would go on in their normal, it'd just be part of the taxes they pay. They would get remitted to the district, and then we turn around and pass that off to 917 so that they can maintain their facilities the same way that we can. So this is a formal process we go through every year. It has to be completed annually in order to get access to those dollars. And it's something that South St. Paul has approved in the past. So this isn't anything new. This is an annual thing we've been doing here for several years.
Board members, any discussion? No. All right, Lisa, will you please call the roll?
Inspector Felton,
Yes.
Inspector Walker,
Yes.
Inspector Raj,
Yes.
Inspector Weber,
Yes.
Inspector Lalaberty,
Yes.
Inspector Arndt,
Yes.
Chair Diaz.
Yes.
That's 7 yeas.
Great, and that motion carries. Next up is, I'm looking for a motion to approve the long-term facility maintenance 10-year plan for South St. Paul
So
Public
moved.
Schools. Special School District 6. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Great. And then Brady, some discussion, please.
Yep, so as we just talked about with 917, this is now our own application for South St. Paul. So included in the application is a 10-year revenue projection spreadsheet, so that's the first attachment within. So based on our $380 per pupil unit that we would generate, it's about 1.2 million annually that we would be able to access to maintain kind of those deferred maintenance components of our facilities. And then the second component is the actual budget breakdown of how we intend to spend those dollars. So in order to receive these funds, we do need the board to approve the 10-year plan annually. This isn't anything new for us. And then we remit that to the state, and then we get access to this funding. So it's a rolling document. It's a fluid document. So yeah, it's a change in the funding over the last 7 years. That is a process that is new. So we've been doing this for 7 years, and it's about $1.2 million that we utilize on an annual basis.
Great. Any questions, discussion, board members? All right. And then we already had it, so
Those in favor?
all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? That motion carries. Thanks, Brady. Moving on to board member reports and where we've seen a passion. We can start down with Bill.
Oh, I just want to give a shout out to all of our graduates and encourage them to chase their dreams and wish them a lot of luck in their futures. It was a pleasure to see all you graduate, and yeah, brought back memories of 60 years. So good luck to all the graduates.
Great. Monica.
I also want to, say congratulations to all the graduates. It was a great ceremony. It's always a lot of fun to just see, all the students who are there and their families and how excited everyone is, and it really just gives you a sense of joy watching all those students. One other note for the community. If you don't know, the frontline worker pay application is now open. And so if you, during the COVID-19 pandemic, worked in a variety of different employments where you had to work in person because remote work was not an option, the state could give you money. And so it's a fairly short application. I know that my husband works in childcare, so he had to go in every day to do learning or to do work. So I would just encourage everyone to apply. If you, for some reason, don't qualify, you will have only spent about 5 or 10 minutes filling out this form. But if you do qualify, the state could send you a check for $750. So I think it's worth your time.
We had a graduate in our family, and I just want to say that I am filled with an enormous sense of gratitude for the community that our schools are, and the opportunities that it provides at graduation and all of the celebrations in the year that followed. It really struck me what a family we are as a school district, from all the way back to elementary school to Chuck Ochaki saying goodbye to the kids just before they walked across the stage. We are really a tremendous family that supports each other, and I know we are filled with gratitude for the experience that our children had in our district. The other thing I want to point out is the SSP Open is in the final plans for their golf tournament July 18th that helps support our kids and the activities that they participate in after school. There we go.
Great, thank you. I'll go before we go down the line. I just want to thank everybody who planned the fantastic commencement. What an event. And as I had the opportunity to stand on stage and shake kids' hands, to be the first person to shake their hands, I may have been a little improperly placed. So I'm sorry if I ruined any pictures you were trying to get of the superintendent and your child. But I had a blast up there to say, congratulations, graduate. And it was very, very moving for me. But thank you to all of those who planned that amazing event. So many details go into it, that and the senior party afterwards. So just to make such a great day for those kids. Really appreciate it.
I would like to say thank you to the Central Square for allowing us to, as a board, to come in and serve hot fudge sundaes to the seniors. Was that a week ago, 2 weeks ago? I don't know. But it was such a joy to move around to the tables and talk with the elders in our community and listen to their words of wisdom. And I think they really appreciated that we came in and had the Sundays. And so hopefully we can do that again.
How cool that we were able to be with seniors and with seniors.
Yeah.
Right? Just in a short time.
Yep, all within 1 week.
Yeah.
Several senior moments that
We
we
did.
had. That's good.
I have a lot of those.
You fit right in.
So this is a common theme, but I also want to just, the topic of this agenda item is where have you seen a passion? And oh my gosh, those commencements, the passion of the kids and the families and the staff as well. It's so fun to watch and be a part of. I just want to thank everybody that was involved with it and congratulate not only the students, but everyone else that's involved, the families and the staff. It's quite an accomplishment, and it was, you were due that celebration, so congratulations.
Yeah, as the end of the school year, there's always so many things for us board members to attend. So, of course, the highlights, attending the graduations, the Community Learning Center graduation, the secondary building graduation. I also attended Intermediate School District 917's graduation ceremonies. And also a couple other things that I attended was the IB Art Show when they held it at the Black Sheep coffee shop. Went there and checked that out. I just love them pictures. They're so creative and artistic. It's just so great. And I also attended the Early Childhood Family Education Teddy Bear Band concert, which was held at Central Square in the amphitheater. And that was a lot of fun too. It was nice to see a lot of our younger families there with their younger children. It was a fun event. So, and not only that, a huge thank you to all of our staff members getting through this year. Hopefully, we're trying to, as we all are in our lives, trying to get back to somewhat normal things. So thank you so much to all of our staff for what you've done for our students and our community. And the next thing that's be exciting for us board members, keep in mind Kaposia Days is less than 2 weeks away. So on Friday, June 24th, your board members will be in the parade. So we look forward to seeing everyone and waving at everyone, and it'll be a lot of fun. And then as was also mentioned earlier, a couple other things to do this summer will be that the plays at the high school that was talked about earlier, July 14th and 15th with the junior players, and then the 28th through the 31st with the community theater group. So there are some fun events coming up in our school district, so we look forward to seeing our community members there. So thank you very much. Have a safe and enjoyable summer.
Thank you, everybody. And we do have a closed session this evening, so I'm looking for a motion to move into the closed session per the open meeting law, Minnesota Statute 13D03 Subdivision 1B for labor negotiations strategy.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Great, thanks. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion carries, and the meeting moves to closed session at 7:35.
65.
6:55 PM.